Hey everybody, it's pretty cool. It drops some apples. It's actually using the same script as this breakable chair. And so when it drops these apples, we were thinking, wouldn't it be cool if you could eat them? And so Xandria and I are going to build a script today that allows you to put it up to your mouth, and then it'll force release out of your hand. Yeah, so let's go do that. Now, the first thing to note about an eating script is that it needs a return. So we're going to start over here in the Essentials Bundle OG, where we've got an object return script. So we're going to grab our duplicate tool that's on our thumbstick to the right, and we're going to duplicate the object return script. I use this as the basis for almost all of my scripts, and if you haven't seen this video, link right here, link in the description. It's a really great tutorial on how to build a return script, and like I said, it's the basis for most of my grabbable objects. Okay, so over here, we want to make a eating script and rename this script. So I'm going to go ahead and call this edibles. At the beginning of the edibles script, you can see we're saving our origin position, origin rotation. That's all a part of our return script. In fact, since this is all a part of a return script, we're going to head to the values tab, and we're going to grab a comment and leave that right above when world is started, and we can comment in return script below. This is a great way to kind of organize your script, especially if you've got multiple sections. So above this, we're going to build our edible script, and below is our return. Now back on our events tab, we need to think about when is it edible? Well, it's edible as long as it is being held. So if we go down here and we scroll down to grab events, we can grab when object is grabbed by player. We'll go ahead and bring that up above the return scripts comment, and we're also going to need to know when the object is released by a player. Now that we have the object grab and object release events, when the object is grabbed, we want to have a loop running. And so under the top of our events tab, we have when event is received. We're going to drop that below here, and we're going to call this event loop. Now inside of here, I've already got a loop. You can also type it in from the top under new event, and you'll just type in LOOP. Perfect. And it's good to make sure that your script doesn't already have a loop in it. So I'm going to quickly scroll down and just confirm we've got no custom events named loop. So that's perfect. And then over here underneath when event is received, we'll see send event with delay. We're going to go ahead and grab that and bring it up here into our loop. Now we have send my event to self after 1 second. We're going to go ahead and click on the drop down and select loop, which will now be there since you just created it as well. And so we'll click there. And now when loop is received, we send loop to self with the 1 second delay. And what we're going to do is change this 1 second to half a second. So we're going to go type in 0.5. Perfect. And then we also want to take this loop and put it up here when object is grabbed by player. So go ahead and click on it and then bring it up to object is grabbed, and you can thumbstick to the right towards the duplicate tool to duplicate it right where the white line is. Now that we've created this loop, it's important we find a couple ways to stop it. Otherwise, this loop might not stop. So what we're going to do is cancel it when object is released. So back on our events tab, you're going to see cancel sending with delay here under event actions. We can just drag that over and put that in here where when object is released. So we're going to cancel sending loop. Now the problem is sometimes this doesn't work. And when it doesn't work, it can be a bit problematic. And so what we like to do is go to our variables tab, create a new variable, and this is called can loop, which is a Boolean variable. So can loop, select Boolean, confirm, and this is going to start as default false. Sure, that's fine. And then over here, when the object is grabbed, we want to set it to true. So we're going to go back to our variables tab, grab the can loop, bring it over here, and then back on our values tab at the very bottom, you're going to see Boolean input, and we can drag that into the value input on the right. And now we can set can loop to true. And then we're going to grab this again and then go down to object released and duplicate to the right. And now we can set it to false. So whenever the object is let go by the player, we don't want it to continue looping, so we stop the loop. To use a Boolean, we're going to need an if statement. So back on our events tab, near the top, you're going to see if. If we grab if and bring it down into loop, we can then use this can loop Boolean. And so I'm going to grab this variable and then drag it in here, and thumbsticking to the right allows me to duplicate it. And when I let go, that just returns back to where I grabbed it from. Now that we have if can loop, this checks to see if it's true. We can now indent the send loop to self. Now it'll only send to self if can loop is true. Wonderful. So now we've got our loop created, and inside of our loop, this is where we're going to do all the math to find out if we can eat it. To check if the distance, we're going to need an if statement. So go ahead and grab another if, and we can put that above the can loop. And now that we have our second if there, we need to check if the distance is less than. So at the top of our operators tab, there is the less than symbol. So we're going to go ahead and drag that over into the condition. And we want to calculate the distance from the object to the player's mouth. And so to do that, on our operators tab, we can scroll down to vector, where you're going to find distance 2. Grab distance 2 and pull that into the A slot. Now here we can check the distance from A to B, and it accepts vector values. Vectors are just positions, so don't need to be too afraid of them. It's just X, Y, and Z representing positions in the world. Vectors can represent a lot of other things as well, but we're not going to get into that today. So the distance from A to B. So now we just need to put in two positions, and the position is position of player head and position of self. So back here on our operators tab, if we scroll up to position of object, we're going to grab that and put that into the A slot. And the object is self, and we have a self object variable here. We can also find another one here on the values input right here. So we grab self, put that here. Now I've got the position of object self, and then to the player is the owner of self. Whoever's holding that object is the owner of that object, and therefore we can call that, and I'll show you where that code block is in just a second. So we need to get position of player, which is also found on operators tab, and it's actually below vector math. You'll see player, and we can grab position of player, put that in B, and then we're going to use the head position of the player, and under actions tab near the bottom, you're going to see owner of object. We can drag the owner of object pill into the player slot, and the object is self, so we're going to grab that self pill, thumbstick right to duplicate it in there. And the only other thing we need is a number input, which we can find under the values tab. So we'll drag number input into the final B slot there. And the distance that we want to calculate is how far away does this object need to be considered being eaten. And so I'd say like, if you're holding on to it, it's probably about 0.5 meters. So let's try 0.3 meters, and we'll just go and kind of finesse it, see what works best. And there we go. We've calculated the distance that we need and to see when it's within. The next step is to make this object disappear. And so the first thing we're going to do is go to our actions tab, and then we're going to scroll up and you're going to see force release. There it is. Grab force release and put that into our if statement. And we're going to force release self. So that's the object the player is holding. And after force releasing self, we want the object to return to its original position, but maybe not immediately. And so I know my apples return. And so under our variables tab, we have an ability to do, oh, right, when object is released by player force, does force release cause it to go off is the question. Because down here in our return script, we do send return to self when the object is released by the player already. Okay, so this could work. So then the only thing we need to do after force releasing is make the object invisible. So let's try doing that and see if that's all we needed to do. So under actions, set object visibility, and let's also do collidability so that way you can't grab it. So set visibility to false and set collidability to false. All right, so we're setting our self visibility to false, setting self collidability to false, and now our object has disappeared, right? So you've eaten the object, wonderful. And then because the object was force released, it should send the object released by player, which is going to cancel the loop. And it's also going to send our return event back to self. So here we've got a return, and when return is received, it's going to re-enable physical motion, but we need to also set visibility and collidability back to true. So we'll go bring this back to the beginning and just drag over both of these, and they're already set to self. So now we've set collidability and visibility back on. And the other thing we need to look at here that I just kind of wanted to point out is because this return script has an option for instant or delay, you can have food that instantly returns, or you can have food that has a delayed return, and that delay is what it's going to use, which is pretty cool. So let's go ahead and try this out with a brand new apple. Shout out to Oculos who designed these fabulous, juicy, delicious apples that I promise are not poison. And we're going to go and attach the script. If we go down to the very bottom, edibles. All right, so our edibles script is attached. We're going to do one of these with instant and one with delayed. So let's make it interactive and grabbable in physics. I'm going to select it, then duplicate a copy over. Now this is an identical copy, so on this copy, I want to do a delay return and make it 3 seconds. And like that, we have our two apples. Now I'm going to stop, reset the world. Script, stop, reset. Stop, reset, and play. There we go. Come on in. And I believe the one on the right is... Oh my gosh, that's the instant one. Wow, that was perfect. Oh my gosh, that works so well. And this is our delay. And it's gone for 3 seconds. 1, 2, and 3. And I think as I was holding on to it, I realized there might have been a bug. So let's see. I'm holding on to it still. You kind of see how my hand looks like it's still holding it. I'm not sure. Oh, it's not. Okay, cool. Wow, that works really well. So my friend Oculus shows up and he's like eating this apple going chompity chompity chompity, and we realize we forgot to add a sound effect. So really quick, super duper easy. Head to your variables tab, create a new variable, and it's going to be an object variable named sound effects. So I go SFX for short, click confirm. We've now got a reference to a sound effects, and I'll show you how to connect that in just a second. And when we eat, so down here when we set the visibility to false, we're going to play that sound effect. So under actions, scroll down to sound and grab play sound. We're going to put that inside of the if block. And then we need to go back to our variables tab, and then we can drag sound effects into this self pill, which will replace it with our new sound effects pill. Voila, we've done that. And now we just need to add that to all of our apples here. And so here's our sound from Oculos. It's a nice chewing sound, I see. Oh my gosh, that's hysterical. Yes, we are definitely. It's so long. It's so long. Does it stop? How long?
I think you just keep chewing.
It doesn't.
It's a good apple.
It doesn't stop. Okay, so we're going to have to build a delay in, but I love this. It's too funny not to keep it. So we're going to change the distance down to about 15 so it's not super annoying. Volume's going to go down to about 60. Pitch is just fine. We're going to turn off play on start. And we're gonna stop this preview. And then down here on our apple, we're going to use this Red Delicious as our kind of base one. So we're going to duplicate this one in a second. And we're going to grab the chew pill, so that's this pill here, and drag that into the sound effects slot here. And like that, we have linked it up. Okie doke. So we will go ahead and use this same sound effect for all of them. And so what we need to do is, in addition to making the sound effect stop, we also need to move the sound effect to the position of the player's head. And so we'll go here and grab move to, and we're going to move the sound effect to the position of self. So we just grabbed this one here and duplicated it to there. And that move to is found at the top of our motion tab. It's under instant motion. And the last thing we need to do is stop the sound effect. And I think we'll do that when it returns. So as soon as the object returns, however long that delay is. And so for our script, it's only 3 seconds, but in some worlds, it might be a while. Maybe use a different sound, or you can change the delay. But we're going to grab the stop sound from here under actions. We have stop sound. We'll drop that into the return section here. And we're stopping the sound on the sound effects. Voila. And if you have a shorter sound, this isn't exactly necessary. Like if you record yourself going, honk, then that's totally fine and you don't need to worry about that. Okie doke. So we've got that set up. I'm going to grab these 3 apples here and move them off to the side because I want their color. And this is kind of our key apple. I'm going to check that by verifying that the sound effect is linked in, which it is. Perfect. And we don't want this on instant return. We want this on a 3-second turn. So there we go. And then we're going to duplicate over to here and over to here and over to here. There we go. And then we just need to select the color. I like to do this by stopping the world. And we're going to select the green, the off red, and our other off red. Nice. All right, there we go. So they're all set up. We got our basket. We'll hit play and try it out. Oh, there it is. That is so weird.
Delicious.
That's so funny. With that, we've done it. If you guys want a copy of this edible script, you can get it here in Horizon. That's in the Vidyuu Essentials bundle. If you don't have access to it already, leave your Oculus username in the comments. Thank you, Xandria, for joining me in today's scripting tutorial. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in Horizon. Bye! With my head tilted sideways. Okay, resume and rotate. Just blink for me one time. One more time.
I'm blinking.
Oh, there it was. One more time. Oh, you did it. Nice. Okay. I think we've got